The Tampa Bay Buccaneers face a must-win, and their secondary is more in question now than it was last week. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this Friday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Mr. David Harrison at DHarrison82. Both of us, your hosts of Locked On Bucs. I am the deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com. David is a staff writer over at BucsGameDay.com, Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation site covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we are here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers. And as always, we want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100.
And on today's episode, we're making our prediction, giving you our keys to the game. But first, two Buccaneers are well, not two Buccaneers. One Buccaneer is going to miss this one. One might miss this one. And then we got a whole bunch of other names that are questionable and a couple guys that have been cleared. And that is the good news. We'll start there. Luke Goedeke is going to play this game. That foot injury, he has been cleared to play. Vita with a groin injury has also been cleared to play. Questionable for this game, cornerback Carlton Davis with a toe, Jamel Dean with a concussion, Logan Hall with a groin, Kalijah Cansey with a quad, Trey Palmer with a neck. Good news is they're questionable. Bad news is the NFL got rid of probable, because if some of those guys were probable, you feel a lot better about that. Doubtful is offensive lineman Matt Filer with a knee injury, and then Josh Hayes, the rookie DB, is out in concussion protocol. James, what are your thoughts about that heavy list of names on the injury report heading into this weekend?
Well, we have Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, both not performing well this season. Carlton Davis coming off his worst game as a professional football player, but they're both like game time decisions. Jamel Dean still has to clear that protocol. So if I had to guess, I would say Jamel Dean is not going to play. And then that toe injury that kept Carlton Davis out for a couple of games has flared back up. So now you're looking at the potential of Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean both missing this game. And that's a problem. As frustrating as the game was last week, as disappointing as their performances have been this year, they're still starting corners for this team. And if you lose both of them in 1 week, that's less than ideal, especially going up against a Tennessee Titans team that Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins seem to have a pretty solid connection, especially on the deep ball. And now you're looking to Zion McCollum and D. Delaney and Christian Izzy, and you don't even have Josh Hayes available to bring in this game. So the questions surrounding Davis and Dean are extremely concerning heading into this week when, Carlton Davis, more so than anyone, needs the biggest bounce back week that we have ever seen because of just how poorly last week went against the Texans.
Yeah, good news, though, coming from Todd Bowles. He says that, when asked about Jamel Dean, obviously he said he's still in the concussion protocol. He's got to pass a few more tests before he can play Sunday. But, quote, we have Derek Pitts and Keenan Isaac on standby and ready to go. So fear not.
Yay.
And
those are players.
Got some guys.
Those are.
Hey, you know what, man? Tom Brady was once an unknown 6th-round draft pick. Christian Izzy was once an undrafted free agent safety. So let's not sleep on anybody until it's time, which may be the third quarter. The Tennessee Titans will be without safety Mike Brown, offensive lineman Daniel Brunskill, wide receiver Traylon Burks, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting. So we're missing the SMB revenge game, the SMB RG. Offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, Ohio State Buckeye legend. Offensive tackle will be out of this game as well. Questionable cornerback Anthony Kendall and quarterback Ryan Tannehill, which pretty sure the Tennessee Titans are firmly into the Will Levis era anyway, so it doesn't really matter what Ryan Tannehill's status is going to be. James, what are your thoughts on missing out on the SMB RG?
The only gravedigger on the field is going to be Antoine Winfield Jr. That's what this boils down to.
Gravedigger. Look at that pull. I mean, it's not that long ago, but it kind of feels like it's a long time ago.
I mean, Carlton dug his own last week, but I mean, all the gravediggers are off the field except for Antoine Winfield Jr. Mike Edwards is hanging out in Kansas City, having a grand old time. And then, Sean Murphy Bunting dealing with that thumb injury, and he's not going to be on the field. I'm sure, there's going to be smiles and catching up pregame, but not on the field. And then, as you said, the Titans are firmly in Will Levis, the Will Levis era now. So Ryan Tannehill at best was going to be your number 2 quarterback in this one. The only way that this really plays into the game itself is if for some reason Will Levis were to get hurt. I'm sure Titans fans and the Titans team themselves would be much more confident seeing Ryan Tannehill go onto the field rather than Malik Willis. But ultimately it's not going to play into the game too heavily, barring anything, awful happening to Will Levis, which of course we don't want to see happen. Right. And of course, neither do the Titans or their fans.
Yeah. How about the turnaround that Will Levis has made? Like, he was like the hotness for a while, like maybe the number 1 quarterback drafted at some point during the college season. And then all of a sudden, like he was like, he had the plague, like nobody wanted to touch him. And then the Titans drafted him. Everybody made fun of them. And the preseason came and everybody made fun of them more. And now all of a sudden it's like on to the Will Levis era. Traylon Burks is probably wishing he was playing this game because he's like, man, the Buccaneers are going to be playing with XFL corners. Why can't I get in there and see if I can't have a career day myself?
You think Will Levis's ex-girlfriend is calling him back like, oh, you're a starter in the NFL now. Can we get back together because you're apparently actually kind of good at this football thing?
I mean, if that's the reason she broke up with him, then hopefully if she did, he said no, because that's a red flag if I ever heard of one. That is none of my business. What is my business, James, is how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to pull this one off. And the more we talk about injury reports, the sadder and sadder we get. Gravedigger is apparently the best monster truck ever. That makes me a little bit happy. And Demon Hunter told his daughter that I was offended last week, and now I feel bad because his daughter hopefully didn't feel bad, but she says hi, so we say hi back, of course. But James, keys to this game, keys to the Buccaneers victory. We're going to tell everybody how they're going to win this bad boy coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Bucs is brought to you by Prize Picks, the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Well, they are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you go more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. And they now offer quick withdrawals with Apple Pay if you have it, so you can get your money very, very quickly from the #1 daily fantasy sports app. For this week's Buccaneers game, I'm going with Baker Mayfield to get more than 1.5 total touchdowns, tight end K. Dotton to get more than 30.5 rushing yards, and running back Rachaad White to get more than 3.5 receptions. I'm going to tack on Will Levis, the Tennessee Titans rookie quarterback, for more than 0.5 interceptions. Looking at you, Antoine Winfield Jr. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. This episode also brought to you by Jase Medical. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I and James on occasion. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts, who sits. And I'm thankful for that connection that we all have together. And today, I want this chat to be a little bit more personal, because whether you're on extended travel, you're bracing for major weather that sometimes comes through our neck of the woods, or limited, or if you're limited by another supply shortage, you are covered thanks to our partners at Jase Medical, who give you life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications that can be ordered in 1 year supplies. Even ED generics like Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio, apparently prescriptions, can be had from Jase Medical. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON to check out for a discount as well. A verified customer said this about Jase, quotes, "I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut my pills in half in order to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. Also got the antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone." End quote. If you or someone you love would love to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code Locked On to get $20 off your purchase. Thanks again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or first view today and every day, everydayers. Thanks as always for coming through on a regular basis. Football season is in full swing. Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Every Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. And your hosts, Tanitra, Jarvis, and Kyle, are going to break down every game on the NFL schedule, get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, you get in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On YouTube channel, and it drops on audio form at 8 a.m. on Saturday. K. Dotton, 30.5 receiving yards on Prize Pick, not rushing yards. That's not even an option. And if it were, please don't ever take the more. I mean, you can go less, don't go more than. But for some reason, the guy that did that ad read said rushing yards for K. Dotton. I don't know.
Maybe
why.
that's what the run game is missing, is more carries for K. Dotton.
Apparently, I knew as much about K. Dotton stats as I did about monster trucks, because Daytona Dad, you're right. I have no idea what Gravedigger, the monster truck, is. It's not.
Gravedigger is the
really big truck is what I'm assuming.
He's like the Stone Cold Steve Austin in the monster truck world. Like, you go back to like old school Attitude Era wrestling, Gravedigger is the Stone Cold Steve Austin of monster trucks. I did get the opportunity to see Gravedigger. It was about 2 years ago. I got free tickets to a monster truck show in Cincinnati. Took the kids. They had an absolute blast, and Gravedigger was there, and it's a lot of fun. But you know, it's one of those things that it's like, I'm not sad if I miss it, but it's fun to take the kids because they see enormous trucks crunching normal size cars, and a good time is had by all.
I will take your word for it. Ward Burns points out that Dave Canales did have an end around for K. Dotton. So if that end around is 31 yards or more, I will be accurate in my Prize Picks ad read. I'm sure that's not going to happen. But James, what is going to happen? At least what needs to happen for the Buccaneers to win this football game?
Oh man, the chat is not going to like me at all. Run the ball a lot. Okay, Rachaad White last week finished with 73 rushing yards, and it turned out to be only 3.65 yards per carry. Not great. But they've been utilizing Rachaad, as I've talked about numerous times now over the course of the last couple of weeks, of this whole running through the air thing, where he's getting these short little like 0-1 yard depth of target and then creating plays with his legs. Don't do that. Well, I mean, still do that, but focus on running the ball, because this Titans run defense has been abysmal. Tyler Rowland talked about it on the crossover episode. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But over the course of the last 4 weeks, this is what the Titans rush defense has done. They've allowed 193 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, 139 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, 140 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, and 166 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. That is what they have allowed in each game and each carry over the last month. This Titans run defense can be had. And we saw last week that the Bucs rushing offense was starting to work a little bit better. The yards per carry aren't great, don't get me wrong, but they stuck with it, and Rachaad White had 20 carries. Once again, had a couple of really solid runs that were negated by penalty. But this will allow the Buccaneers to control the tempo, control the clock, and nobody expects the Buccaneers to have success running the ball. So the defense is going to be preparing to shut down who? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton. That's going to be their focus. So early success with the run forces the defense to adjust, and it's going to open things up in the passing game. You still use Rachaad White in the passing game. You still use Otton. You still hyper-target Godwin and Evans. But the first couple of drives really need to be run-heavy, run-focused, and it needs to be all Rachaad White. Do not give the ball to Keyshawn Vaughn or Chase Edmonds in the run game for the entire first quarter at a bare minimum. And if you're going to give the ball to Chase Edmonds, who I like, make sure he's actually wearing cleats and not like, I don't know, extra slip shoes.
Extra slip. Cleats by Crocs. Let's get rid of the Croc cleats. Yeah, no, I mean, I like it, obviously. The more Rachaad White, the better, especially if it's actually being effective. The only place I'm going to disagree there is I do still want to see some of the short passing game with Rachaad White and with Chase Edmonds for that matter. And to that end, the Tennessee Titans are top 5 in the league, which is good for the Buccaneers in this sense, like top 5 as in 5 most, like highest completion rate of passes that are either behind the line of scrimmage or 5 yards, up to 5 yards past the line of scrimmage and air yards. They're allowing 83.1% of those passes to be completed, and they're giving up 5.8 yards per pass attempt in those iterations, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the 5th most in the National Football League. And quarterbacks have a 93.4 QBR when throwing, again, behind the line of scrimmage or up to 5 yards, air yards against Tennessee Titans defense. The only reason that QBR isn't higher is because they've only given up 1 touchdown that way. So it's not going to necessarily get you into the end zone, but if it gets you moving between the 20s, you can figure out a way to get into the end zone later with my predicted player of the game as we go along. So yeah, I like all of that stuff. I like everything that you just said, but I do want to see a little bit more of that short passing game. And like someone said, if I can find the comment in the live chat, I can't right now, so I'm sorry, but someone said in the live chat, that will open up things downfield for other people. I firmly agree with that as well. My key to this game is going to be on the defensive side of the ball, and it's going to be kind of a no-duh, but limit the explosive passes that you allow to the Tennessee Titans, especially to a rookie quarterback. That is the fastest way to make a rookie feel comfortable. If you don't believe me, ask CJ Stroud. He felt pretty comfortable coming out of that Buccaneers game. This team has lost, or in their last 3 losses, this team has given up no fewer than 62 yards in explosive passes alone. They've also given up no fewer than 3 explosive completions in each of those games. They've given up 5 explosive touchdowns in their losses this season, and they've only intercepted 2 passes that have traveled 15 or more air yards, again, in this season. Teams are increasingly challenging the Buccaneers' deep pass defense each of the last 3 weeks as well. Every single one of these teams has put up more air yards attempted against the Buccaneers defense. So literally every single week, offensive coordinators say, hey, guys, I think we can throw deep on these guys, and CJ Stroud didn't do this defense any favors. Will Levis currently, he's only completing 33% of his passes that travel 15 or more yards through the air. That sounds really good for the Buccaneers defense, but here's the problem. 71% of those passes that he's attempted have been catchable. So they're being broken up or they're being potentially dropped. They're not inaccurate passes. Will Levis is 5th in the NFL in catchable passes among quarterbacks with at least 4 attempts of 15-plus air yards. This dude has played in 3 games, and he's 5th in the NFL in catchable passes that travel 15 yards or more through the air. So it's not on Will Levis that completion percentage is 33%. It's on partially his receivers, but it's also on the defenses that he's been playing, specifically more so than any last week's defense. If this Buccaneers defense can't impact that part of the Tennessee Titans game, that 71% of catchable passes that are traveling 15 or more yards through the air will become much more catchable, and he will complete much more of them than 33%. I don't feel like I'm speaking English, but I hope that the message is getting through to Bucs fans. This secondary, Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, or no Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, is going to get targeted deep. Will Levis has been accurate. Again, 71% of his deep passes are catchable. He is going to challenge them. The Titans are going to challenge them. And if they do what they did against Houston, against the Bills, against the Falcons, it's going to be another very long day and a 5th straight loss for Todd Bowles and his team.
Yeah, that could get real ugly real fast. And you would think, all right, well, DeAndre Hopkins can still, obviously he showed 2 weeks ago that he can still go deep. He can still get those explosive plays, but there's no Treylon Burks. Well, my Titans loving best friend for fantasy purposes picked up Nick Westbrook Ikine.
Nick Westbrook Ikine. I interviewed him coming out of college. I was really high on that dude. Not like he was going to be a star, but he was like a late round guy. But I thought I really liked him as a sleeper.
But yeah, never even heard of this guy. And then my buddy's like, yeah, I picked him up because he's playing Tampa's pass defense and he can burn. It's like, oh, fantastic. So he's going to have the Noah Brown game from last week where all of a sudden they don't have an answer for this guy that should not have gotten more than a target. So keep an eye out for Nick Westbrook Ikine, apparently, because dude's going to go off. And look, I've already begun eating my crow on CJ Stroud. We both have some crow to eat on Will Levis if he keeps this stuff up. But yeah, with Dean, with Davis, without the two of them, the explosives have to be limited because that'll turn the game on its head immediately. Coming up here in just a moment, we are going to talk about our bold predictions, our players of the game, and drop our score predictions. That's next here on Locked On Bucs.
This episode of Locked On Bucs is brought to you by BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of year can be a lot for a lot of people. It's very natural to feel some kind of sadness or even anxiety about the holiday season, but adding something new and positive to your life can be counteracted to some of those negative or bad feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and the change, something to look forward to, something that makes you feel grounded, and something that gives you the tools to manage everything going on around you. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's specifically designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to fit your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime you like to for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn.
Wrapping things up here on a live Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarcho, David Harrison. The Buccaneers play the Titans on Sunday at 1 p.m. at Raymond James Stadium. They're in Tampa. Catch every snap of the Buccaneers hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SiriusXM app. Just search Buccaneers, and while you're there, you might just hear a familiar voice during the game. It's possible. It is possible. But we do have some predictions. David, I saw your comment in the chat. I was actually going to bring this up, talking about Mike Evans, because my bold prediction for this one is that Mike Evans is going to finish with 150 yards or more and a score. And I even had in my notes that the last time that Mike Evans faced the Titans, he finished with 11 catches on 12 targets for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I got to thinking, wait a minute. Now, David in the chat said that it was his only game against the Titans, but I seem to remember a certain number 1 pick versus number 2 pick opening week of the NFL season, Jameis Winston's first career NFL pass being a pick 6 by the Titans and then going on to boat race the Buccaneers. And I thought, well, Mike Evans played in that game. No, he didn't. He was inactive for that game. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember why. Granted, it was 8 years ago. But I have no idea why Mike Evans was not active.
For awesomeness.
He was inactive for awesomeness.
The NFL suspended him for too much awesomeness.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that makes sense. Also, before we get to your bold prediction, David, I do have to jump in the chat. We got word burns in there. No way on Eric Bieniemy, Harbaugh or bust. I want nothing to do with Harbaugh. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, because that comes from Demon Hunter, who asked if this team loses to Tennessee, do I think that Eric Bieniemy from Washington is on Team Glazer's radar? I'll be honest with you. Any team that is looking for a new head coach next year, I do think Eric Bieniemy will be on the radar because the Washington Commanders offense is taking a lot of really good strides. It didn't start off so hot, but you look at what he did with a very young quarterback. The problem with that is the team that currently employs Eric Bieniemy may be one of those teams looking for a new head coach next year, and they may go ahead and do a Dirk Cutter Lovie Smith situation. But look, ownership groups like to flip flop, right? So you have a defensive coach and you fire that defense coach, like to go offensive. So Todd Bowles is defensive, Bruce Arians was offensive, and really in this atmosphere too, you're like, well, we had Bruce Arians and we won a Super Bowl. We go to the defense coach Todd Bowles and we win nothing. So let's go back to an offensive coach because then we'll win another Super Bowl, which isn't really how it works. But yeah, I could certainly see them going after an offensive head coach candidate like an Eric Bieniemy. The interview process would be a very big part of that. I'll just leave it at that for right now. And yeah, no on Harbaugh. No thanks. I'm good, bro. Todd Monken. I'm definitely better on Todd Monken than I am on Harbaugh. Apparently, Mike Evans missed that Titans game due to a hamstring injury. Pause for shock. James, my bold prediction. I don't even know if it's that bold of a prediction, but I'm going to call it a bold prediction because if Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis don't play this game, if you're Will Levis, when you step up the field, you go, "Where's 31?" Okay, don't throw there. Throw anywhere else but there. Yet Antoine Winfield Jr. is still going to come up with an interception. Remember, I said Will Levis more than 0.5 interceptions on my Prize Picks prediction. I said Antoine Winfield Jr. looking at you. Well, I'm looking at Antoine Winfield Jr. to get an interception. If the Buccaneers win this game, it might need to be a pick six. So that's my bold prediction for this game, James. My player prediction for this game, and I like to go kind of outside the boundaries a little bit, not necessarily saying that his stats are going to lead this team, but Chris Godwin is going to be huge in this game, whether it's a couple of third down conversions, whether it's a late score, whether it's just being that guy that if the short passing game, if the run game, and if Mike Evans is going off like you said he is, be that guy that keeps the defense honest. Don't let them go over and just completely take over playing the short game. Don't let them just kind of, maul Mike Evans late in the game and take him out. Be that guy that people first fell in love with when he came out of Penn State. Just be that utility guy that can do some really good things to let the rest of the offense thrive. Or, I wouldn't hate to see CG14 have, a career classic type of game. But I think Chris Godwin is going to be a major part of this, whether it's from production or whether it's from influence.
Yeah, that kind of goes along the lines of my player prediction because I'm going with Cade Otton in this one. I like the increased usage week after week after week. And Cade Otton's coming off of basically a career day against the Houston Texans. I'm gonna say this: Cade Otton is going to get a reception for a first down on 80% or more of his total receptions in this game, which I guess is kind of a bonus bold prediction, even though it's not my actual bonus. That'll be coming up in a little bit, but that's going to be the utilization of Cade Otton here. Is he's along with Chris Godwin, because the Titans are going to focus on Chris Godwin. It's third down, clamp down on Chris Godwin. Cade Otton needs to be the chain mover guy for the Buccaneers and get those dirty first downs, those catches, and then leaping out with that big frame to get the extra yard or two in order to move the sticks and keep these drives going. So, David, on the crossover, I already gave my score prediction, and it boils down to this. For those that haven't heard the crossover, I do recommend you go back and listen. It gives you some solid insight into the Tennessee Titans, but I don't have faith in the coach. I don't have faith in the players to pull themselves out of this tailspin right now. I took the Titans 20-17. What is your score prediction for this one?
My score prediction is that I'm just going to be a glutton for punishment, and I'm going to pick the Buccaneers, even though the course of this conversation has obviously proven that I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to the Buccaneers this weekend. I'm going Tampa Bay 25-20. I tried looking up if 4 sacks in a single game would be a rookie record if Kalijah Kancey makes Demon Hunter's bold prediction come true. And as I'm looking through the list of players, Shaq Barrett comes up there, and Shaq Barrett obviously wasn't a rookie for the Buccaneers. So I can't trust the research I just did. So I don't know if that's going to be a rookie record or not. But I think it would probably be a rookie record. Demon Hunter also coming through with 2 interceptions for Antoine and a pick 6. So 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a pick 6. Mike Evans, 190,000 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 30-10.
y'all are giving them a lot more credit than I will right now.
Fanatical.
And you know what? I hope
that's what you're supposed to be.
I come on here Sunday and go live and talk about how I was wrong. Nothing would make me happier. But until they show me that they can do it, and let's be honest, David, over the course of us doing these predictions ahead of games, I've been the more optimistic of the two of us overall. I don't believe in this team right now. I really don't. And I know I talked about on the last live reaction right after the Texans game that the season isn't over, and a win this Sunday could really start to get things back on track. I wrote about it in the Pick 6 on bucksnation.com, but you got to show me. You have to show me that you can do it, because I'm not going to put myself out there. I am going to give one more real quick bonus bold prediction. And David, you're going to like this one. So talked a lot about Rachaad White on this episode. And 3 weeks ago, he finished with 99 total yards. 2 weeks ago, he finished with 109 total yards. Last week, 119 total yards and the 2 touchdowns. So Rachaad White is going to finish with 129 total yards in this game. Excellent. That's exactly what we needed.
A little late, but that's how I feel about that.
But you know what? I don't think you've played that for anything since the bye week. Maybe that's what the Bucs needed to actually start winning. And with that, we are going to bid you all a fair adieu. Yeah, there we go. All right. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs. Please make sure that you are checking out everything that David is doing over at BucsGameDay.com. Check out my work over at BucsNation.com. Follow everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, and at DHarrison82. Subscribe on Subtext. We're on Subtext now. Go ahead and find us over there. And, we can have one-on-one conversations. We can chat during the game. All kinds of fun stuff going on over there. So please go subscribe over at Subtext. And that's going to do it. So please, hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons, and thank you to my co-host, to a lot of my family members, to all of you veterans out there. Thank you very much here on Veterans Day, and thank you for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.